Hello, dear listeners. Welcome to Landing America. After 2 months summer break, we are back and running. Today, I have here my friend Katia Panina. Welcome, Katia.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you for coming on this podcast, Katia. So let's start with your background. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your childhood, and your life in Russia.
Sure. My name is Kate. I am from Russia originally. I moved to the US. Actually, I don't know when, maybe 9 or 10 years ago. I've been here I'm thinking this whole time it was like steady in the US, but then I start coming to the US 6 years prior to that. So altogether, it's probably over 15 years at this point.
Where in Russia were you born?
Engels, it's next to Saratov. It's on the Volga River. I would say it's like 16 hours from Moscow, but pretty big city. Saratov has almost 1 million people, or maybe more now. I haven't been there for a very long time. Engels is much smaller. It's like 250K people living there, but very nice university, nice place to go. I've been there for my whole life. And then after college, I moved to the US.
Have you been thinking about living in America as a child?
I wouldn't say so necessarily, but when I was a child, I always only watched like Disney Channel or, movies in like that were produced by like American companies, cartoons by Disney, songs by Britney Spears only. So I never was like really a big fan of Russian culture, I would say. So my parents and my grandparents who raised me, they said, oh, you're definitely not going to live here. Like you're going to be living abroad. So maybe something inside me knew I'm going to be living in America, but I did not think about it. No, not when I was a child.
When was the first time you thought about living in the US?
Actually, first time was when one of my grandmothers told me about the program, the J1 visa, I don't remember the name of the program, exchange student. I was either on the first or second year in college, and my grandmother told me, oh, do you want to go to America and like learn more English and kind of, explore your options and spend the summer there? And I was like, wait, but that's like super expensive. And she was like, well, I'll pay for it. And that was the first time I thought about it, because before it just seemed very unimaginable. Like it's like the biggest country, one of the biggest country in the world after Russia. And I've never thought of coming here, but this program gave me an opportunity to visit. So that was the first time.
How old were you?
So it was either first or second year of college. So 17, 18, 19, something like that.
Have you been scared?
Oh, I've never been abroad before. I haven't even been to Moscow or St. Petersburg. Like, I've only stayed in my hometown. So I never left my home. I've never traveled anywhere. And that was like horrifying for me, to be honest. At that point of time, it gave me comfort that my friend was also applying for that program. So we were like friends in college and we were thinking going together. So it was like a good thing that I'm not going to be by myself. However, that's not how it ended. So yeah, I was horrified.
So your family was supporting your decision?
Yes and no. My grandparents were very supportive of me. One of my grandmothers gave me money for the program, and my second grandmother gave me like funds for, to take with me. However, my parents did not support that. They were saying, oh, you're so young, you haven't been anywhere before. Like, what are you going to be doing there? Like, you're not going to survive. But I didn't really listen to them because, again, my grandparents raised me. I was more close to them than to my actual mom and dad. So I was just like, I can do it. And I went, and that was fun experience.
Do you remember the process of getting your first J1 visa? Was it easy?
I do remember that year was very hard. People were getting rejections for J1 visas from the immigrations, or however, the authority called, I don't remember. And we supposed to have an interview before Memorial Day in May. So we're supposed to start, like, there's a process to get a J1, right? There's a contract, so you're supposed to start on a certain date. But we got the interview for the visa after Memorial. And the employer was not happy. So I got my contract canceled, and I was pretty much in danger for not getting the visa, because one of the, requirements for the visa is to have a valid contract that there is an employer waiting for you. We had 2 weeks, me and my friend, to find another job, to get the contract signed saying that we will take financial responsibility for this student. And it was actually an interesting story. I was not sleeping for probably like a week and a half. I was Googling every single restaurant, pizzeria, any kind of shop in the area or like on the coast, close to where my original offer was from. And I was calling them at night, like over Skype, just calling randomly, like a restaurant. Like I had a list of 1,000 restaurants. I was scratching them out. I was calling like, hey, I'm the student from Russia. I'm looking for a job for, J1 visa. Can you like give me any kind of contract? And they were like, no, like we don't know you. Like, who are you? We're not going to do that. And then 3 out of 1,000 restaurants said yes. But back then, I didn't speak English that well, so I couldn't. They said, spell your email address for us so we can send you an offer. And I messed up. I messed up so bad that I only received one offer out of 1,000 places that I called. I think it was a miracle thinking about it now, but back then it was like, how come they only one offer got sent? But it did work for me, but not for my friend. So she did not get an offer.
So you came here alone?
Correct. That was a big disappointment during the interview because they did give me the visa and then they declined my friend. And that was the realization of the fact that I will be traveling by myself. I was freaking out. I was like, there is no way I can do it. I'm going to be by myself in a completely new place, new country, new city. It was crazy, but I guess it did work out. I'm here now, but I was very scared.
Which state did you go to?
So my offer was to Wildwood, New Jersey. It's a small town on the coast they have roller coasters, boardwalk. It's like very touristy. They pretty much only open during summer season. It's a nice place to go. I would visit it if, I was like American with the friends and families. But back then, the first impression of, getting to Wildwood was completely not what I expected from America.
Can you describe your first impressions after landing?
Yeah, I landed in New York City. Obviously, to get to Wildwood, it would take another 3 or 4 hours. You have to change 2 buses to get there. And I landed at night, so I didn't leave the airport. I just went straight to the bus station and then to New Jersey. It was an interesting story getting there too. I don't know how much you want to hear about it, but when I first got out of the bus and I saw Wildwood, it was like this 2-story houses in the middle of nowhere. And I'm like, wait, this is America? Like, I just thought of, this like skyscrapers in New York City and a lot of people. And I don't know, I was just like picturing movies kind of things, but what I saw was completely not what I expected. And I was like, no, this is not where I should be. But yeah, that was it. And I'm learning now, and I learned after, that a lot of towns in America are like that, but it was just so not what I expected.
How much time did you spend there?
I spent there 3 months. So for summertime, it was my first year. So it's like, I came in June 3rd, actually came with my birthday. And I left in September back for college. But then I spent another 6 summers there in Wildwood. So 3 months each, I guess that's 18 months in New Jersey.
Do you remember how much money did your grandma spend to sponsor you?
I do. The first year was $2,000, and then second year was close to $3,000. So second year, most of the program was paid from the tax return, like the tax refund money. So I only paid like $1,000 or like $800, but it was pretty expensive back then. I learned that it was even more after. So it was like 4 or 5 after I stopped participating. But yeah, back then, I think it was 2009. It was $2,000.
Did you also travel since you had work and travel visa?
I did work for almost 3 months. I was a workaholic. I was working like from 8 in the morning in a hotel until 3. And I was working from 3 p.m. till 2 a.m. in a pizzeria. And do not ask me how I managed to get from one place to another because I was supposed to be there at 3 and I finished at 3. I was always late. I was always making this excuse that, I was at my other job. And it was normal back then. Everybody had 2 jobs. Was barely sleeping. So I was working 3 months, 3 full months, and then traveling for maybe like 2 weeks the first year.
Were you able to save any money?
Yes and no. I earned a lot that year. That first year, I gave money back to my grandmother for paying for the program. I bought myself a camera, like all the goodies, the clothes and stuff. And then I spent significant money on traveling. So I did earn a lot, but I never brought anything home. I spent it all.
So what's your story after those 6 years?
It was the 6th year in Wildwood, and everyone was kind of making fun of me that, you keep coming back. Why don't you just stay? It was never my intention. But then one of the years, the 6th year, my friend, the one actually, I think I met her second year when I was in Wildwood, and we just kept coming from different cities in Russia, but we were, seeing each other every summer and we were great friends. She was working at this pizzeria as well. She was like, there's like 2 single guys there. We should go out. And I'm like, nah, like, I don't think so. And she was like, yes, we're going out tonight. I was putting it aside. I didn't want to meet this guy, but then we went out, like 4 of us, like these 2 guys and me and my friend, at the beginning of June. And then we just kept going out every single week, 4 of us. At the end of the summer, it was time for me to go back home. I was not even a student anymore. I was like working full time in Russia, in Moscow. And he was like, listen, I want you to stay. And I'm like, I can't stay. I'm going back to my home where my job is, where everything is. Like, I didn't even bring anything with me. Like, it was like a small suitcase that I brought. And he was like, listen, I want you to stay, like, we'll figure it out. Like, if it works out, then it will. And if not, like, you will go back home. So it was like romantic, but at the same time, very risky. I had to sublease my apartment. I had to call my grandmother to get all my stuff from that apartment in Moscow, and she lived 16 hours from Moscow. Yeah, so my family helped me a lot, moving my stuff out of there, and I never got back. I never went back to Russia. I never went back to Moscow. We got married in September, and then yeah, that was the starting of the process, staying in America, applying for, all the citizenship documents, well, green card at the time. And that was the story. That was the beginning of it, and I never went back.
How long did it take you to get your green card?
It was pretty fast. I would say 1.5 years. Well, maybe it's faster now. I don't know. We got married in September, October. I applied right away, and I think I got my papers. Well, like biometrics was like in a few months, and then work authorization was in like 6 months. I got my green card in 1.5 years. So I remember it very well because as soon as I got it, we start traveling with my husband, with my ex-husband. We're not married anymore. Spoiler alert. We went on a cruise, and that was like 1.5 years after applying. So it was pretty fast. As soon as I got my papers, the green card, me and my ex-husband, we both went to Russia. He met my family. So I was lucky because I could see my family maybe like 1.5 years after I was not seeing them. I know people here now, they can be waiting for papers for like years, 3-5 years. They can't go home. So in the past, I was going home every year for like 2 weeks or a month. Ever since the war started, I haven't been back. But before, I was seeing them pretty regularly. My dad visited me first with his wife and my sister. They were coming for maybe 3 or 4 times, and now they do live in America. As a US citizen, I moved them from Russia to be closer to me. So they do have, my dad has a green card now and his family is waiting. So any day now. And my mom visited me 2 or 3 times with a tourist visa. She's not planning on moving here, but she likes seeing me. She likes Miami very much. She's like, oh, only if I could live here. I'm like, well, you can. But she's like, no, I have, my family there. And so yeah, I'm very lucky that I can see them. However, my grandparents, I can't. So I think that's going to be a challenge going, onward because more time, last time I've been there, well, like 3 years ago, and I already missed them a lot and I can't go back. Honestly, I'm scared a bit. And I don't think they will ever come. So.
How did your life look like career-wise after you got married?
It was tough for me to take that hit. In Moscow, I was working in a very big company, EY, Ernst and Young. It was like considered as a big four in accounting, a big accounting firm. So when I started living in America, the only jobs I could get was like server, bartender, something that was not my style of work. But I really liked it, because I felt I was a pretty sociable person. It actually helped me to develop new skills, like talking to people, learning how to, connect with different kind of personalities. And it did help me in the future. After I got my green card, I got back to my career. So I was able to apply for the same job I was doing in Moscow. And maybe after 6 months or so, I got a job offer, and me and my ex-husband, we moved to New York. So for my job. But first, it was tough.
My next question is, where do you see the biggest difference between Russia and the US?
Oh my God, the difference is as big as the space between Russia and the US. I will be honest with you, I never liked Russia. Never liked living there, never liked the culture. As I mentioned, as when I was a child, I was like watching everything Americanish. I do see America as a land of opportunity. I know it sounds very vanilla, but I do see it that way. Here, I feel like even working as a server or bartender or, doing whatever, you can afford like a normal level of life. Like you can travel, you can buy yourself whatever you want, you can eat good food, you can go to restaurants, you can see your family and, give them presents, whatever. In Russia, you will be working as like a middle class job and you will be barely affording pay for your rent. So that's the biggest difference for me. Like I felt free. I could do things. I could help my family in Russia. I could buy things for me and see the world. But at the same time, you do lose a lot when you move to this country. You have to face challenges like healthcare system. I will never understand it. I don't think I ever will. I just don't know why you have to pay so much to get, medical attention or any kind of treatment. So I would say the only disadvantage I see in the US for me is, healthcare. But rather than that, America is just a great country, like land of opportunity.
Do you feel Americanized now?
I think I am. I can tell because I used to live in, so me and my ex-husband, we lived in New Jersey, then Florida, then New Jersey, and then now I'm in Florida again. And during that time, this is the first maybe year or two. Actually, sorry, I'm in Miami for 3 years now. Wow. I have a lot of Russian friends, like Russian speaking people who I am friends with. And I feel that I don't connect with them as much as I connect with Americans. I have a lot of friends from New York, from New Jersey. And I just I'm more like them. So when I'm with my Russian friends, they're always saying like, oh, you're so Americanized. Like you don't get it. And I'm like, yeah, and you don't get it because you're not as Americanized. So it's, I value the holidays, like the Thanksgivings and Christmas, even though, I'm obviously not different religion, I'm Christian, but I do value their Americanized values of, spending time together with families, like this holidays being important. And Russian friends just don't understand. They're like, it's whatever.
Is there anything you don't like about the US?
Healthcare system. I mean, honestly, it's horrible. The maternity leave, Come on, like what, 6 weeks? Not planning on having a child anytime soon, but that's ridiculous. Um, I would say that's the only thing. Like everything else, I'm very happy about. Like, it's a good place to live. Always can find a job. You can always, do whatever you want, travel, see things. But that,
In your opinion, what is the biggest difference between American people and Russian people?
mm, maybe just like the first impression. Russian people, they never smile. They never smile at you. They look so rude. In heart, they're very kind, and most of them are kind and nice people, but they just don't seem that way. Um, and when they try to communicate, even like my Russian friends here, I notice when they try to communicate, they're so rude. Like to me, like I'm like sitting there, I was like, why did you have to say it like that? And she was like, what do you mean? Like I said it normally. So that's the big difference. Like Americans, they always smile. They're always like extra super polite. They are very careful of what they ask and what they say. And some people call Americans fake. They say, oh, it's just like a fake niceness. But to me, like even if it's fake, it gives you like good energy from people, and you have to learn, like you get to know them and they are either nice or not. But with Russians, they're just like always come across like they're so negative, even when they are not. So for people who do not know Russians, that's like a tough thing to get adjusted to.
Now let's spice it up a little bit. What do you think about the dating scene in the US?
Well, I would say dating in Miami is horrible. It's impossible. It's different, but I noticed I wouldn't have like a common opinion that, dating a Russian is this, dating an American is that. I would say you can meet in America, Americans who are very respectful, who gives you flowers, who are very, very much alike to Russian guys. And you can meet a Russian guy who's completely the opposite. So I don't see a big difference. I would say Russian guys always give you flowers and they always like work so hard to get you to like for the first date or, to get you go somewhere with you. Americans are more like careful. I would say they're like not trying to like overstep your boundaries, which I do like, but sometimes you do need this little push, to get to know a person. But overall, guys are guys. They're same.
Would you have done anything differently with the knowledge that you have right now?
Wouldn't have sold my house, knowing it's like 10% interest rate right now. I got it when I was 3. Probably not. I mean, it's experience, when you going through things and you're like, shit, I should have done it differently. Like, you probably wouldn't if you didn't have this experience. So everything worked out really well for me. I was always employed. I always had my documents in place in check. So nothing ever bad happened to me. So it was great experience overall.
We have many listeners who would like to come to the US. What's your advice for them?
My biggest advice would to lower your expectations for sure. It's not going to be like when you just arrive, it's not going to be as dreamy as you can think. It does need hard work. It does need a plan. I would advise to bring like some money to start because there's not guaranteed you're going to have like settled right away. So you do need some funds kind of like to support you at the beginning, and be open-minded. Take any job you can. Have a plan before you come to the US of what are you going to be doing, what is the step, what is step 1, step 2. Otherwise it will be just become chaos. If you want to get a good job and be settled here in the US, you have to have everything like figure it out before you come here, because otherwise you'll be just cut off in your routine and you will never get anywhere. And as I said, probably lower your expectations, because people come here thinking, oh, I'm going to be like living in America, living my American life. But no, it's not that easy. Like you do have to put some work in before you can get some like result out of it and enjoy it.
Thank you so much for coming on to this podcast, Katia. I appreciate you being so open about your experience, and I wish you good luck while you keep pursuing your dreams.
Thank you, Katia.